So I'm going to do a couple of videos on my 96 Cherokee. I've had it for 4 years. Instead of buying a traditional lift kit, I opted to use parts I scavenge from junkyards like Pick and Pull to lift it. You could buy a lift kit from Iron Rock Off-Road or Rubicon Express. They work great. However, they're thousands of dollars, and I prefer to build things as opposed to buy them, so I went a different route. However, all of that stuff eventually will be coming out in lieu of some serious long travel stuff when I get another vehicle. Right now, it started as my daily driver, and then it became my backup. And once my wife and I buy another car, it'll be just a toy. So I'm going to start with the suspension components I bought from the junkyard and show you how I installed them, and then we'll go from there. So the first part I bought was the springs. These are Ford T-Bird V8 coils from a early 90s T-Bird. I went down to Pick and Pull. I got these for $35 for the pair, I believe. And on the T-Bird, they use a isolator which holds it centered. With that isolator, it would net 4.5 inches. You would grab the isolator, drill the appropriate size hole so the bump stop centering deal would fit through it. But I only wanted 3 inches of lift, so I elected not to get that, and I formed this bucket to center it with a hole in the middle that centers the spring and holds it in place, and netted 3.25 inches lift. I can't really remember, but obviously less than 4.5. And then the other part that went along with this was the F250 rear sway bar links, early 90s F250 rear sway bar links. They're 3.5, 4 inches longer. I can't really remember, but they work almost perfect with the amount of lift I netted from the Ford T-Bird coils. As you can see, that's installed at about the right angle. They also have the correct offset to bolt to the Dana 30 down there and to the sway bar itself. The only thing on the front that I really splurged on was these Bilstein 5100, 5125, I can't remember which one, shocks. However, these are 10-inch shocks, which when I had my short arms worked really well, but with the mid arms I'm about to show you, they limit my suspension travel. And a part that I have yet to install, you'll see these are my stock Cherokee brake lines. If you buy early 90s C1500 or K1500 Chevy front brake lines, they're about 5 inches longer, and they're good for mid arms and long arms, but I just haven't gotten around to put them on yet. You can see the long arm right there. So to go along with that, I had to buy a couple other parts. Let me crawl around the front here and I'll show you. Okay, so what we have here is a high pinion Dana 30. This is a 96, so it's one of the better ones. 95 through 99 were high pinions with the larger 297X U-joints. So although Dana 30 is not a great rear front end, this is the better of the Dana 30s. And to go along with the lift, I got a significant amount of death wobble. Well, it only happened once, but I fixed it almost immediately. I got this adjustable track bar from 4-Wheel Parts, which wouldn't have been my first choice, but it was a Saturday and it was the only one I could get that day. At the time, my Cherokee was my daily driver. And the problem was when I lifted it with the stock length track bar, it pulled the front end over towards the driver's side, and the suspension would load and unload and bind, and if you've ever experienced death wobble, it's horrible. So I went down and got this. After the fact, I realized that I could have used the factory one just by drilling a new hole here. I could have recentered my axle visually, got it exactly where it was, figured out where the pivot was, drilled a new hole, which I think, if I recall, would have been about 7/8 of an inch, drilled a new hole, and bolted the stock factory one. So there is a way to do it without the adjustable. However, that's the one thing I did splurge on, other than the shocks. And another junkyard part I got was the ZJ tie rod from a 94 to 98. Grand Cherokees have this beefier tie rod. The drag link from the steering box down to the steering knuckle is pretty substantial. It's beefy enough to handle my needs with 31s. It'll be replaced when I got the whole suspension and redo it. I think it's a little over an inch in diameter solid steel. It's perfectly beefy enough for this setup. But the factory tie rod was very thin tubing. I mean, really weak. Half the diameter of this maybe, and hollow. This is solid. I found this one at Pick and Pull off what appeared to be a in good shape, however wrecked, Grand Cherokee. It looked to be almost new. The ball joints and everything were in good working order, so I plucked it from there. I paid 17 bucks for it, and it's worked really good so far. Okay, I'll show you the mid-length arms. So I ordered 4 bushings from Synergy Suspension. They were like $14 a piece, and I work in a fab shop, so I have access to tools, and I got some 2-inch by 1/4-inch box tube, and I mounted these. They're, I can't remember how long, 35 inches eye to eye. I mounted them in place of the shorter ones, and I had to weld on a new bracket. And again, this was somewhat temporary, I kind of had to. My factory short arms were just in really bad shape, and just to replace the bushings and stuff in them, it wasn't much more money for me to fabricate these. So I put those in, and then I got a deal off a Facebook group for some adjustable uppers, and you could kind of see that, but that's a Iron Rock adjustable upper. I'm actually only running one of them. Technically, this is a 3-link, so I have one adjustable upper in the driver's side stock location, and then the 2 mid-links that I fabricated here. And that pretty much sums up the front. It articulates pretty good until you get to the point that your shocks limit you. So if you were just to buy the junkyard parts, you've got like 35 bucks for the springs. I think it was 12 bucks for the sway bar links, another 17 for the the drag link. It was less than $150 of parts for the junkyard to lift the front. And if a guy wanted to, if you did enough research, you could find shocks off of junkyard vehicles that would be about the right length to accommodate the lift. If you do some Google searches, you'll find it. So let's go to the back. On the back, my Jeep came from Utah, so we had some harsh winter conditions there. And when I went to remove, I had springs that were de-arching in the back. When I went to remove them, I busted the bolts. So instead of making a bastard pack out of a S10 spring pack that I had purchased, what I did was I redid all my pivot points to accommodate the S10 leaf pack. It's about 3.5 inches longer, and if you could see here, there's the stock hole from where the spring was, and I moved it back 1.5 inches here. I had to weld a plate in here that supported a nut in order to mount the front pivot for the leaf spring. So that got us 1.5 inches. And I wanted to move my, let's see if that'll focus. It's a little dark. Come on now. Well, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but since I had a offset pin, come on, focus. Well, it basically, I'm in the plate that holds the U-bolts on, I drilled a hole 1.5 inches back from center to locate the leaf spring on top of the axle. And what that did was that netted me 3 inches of the 3.5 difference in the springs. However, because of the lift, it actually centered it nicely. And when it's at full compression, it tucks in there just about perfect. And then, oh fuck, it's starting to rain. I gotta hurry this up. In the back, also busted those bolts. So you can see there, oh, yep, you can see the stock hole. And then I moved it towards the front, I believe 2 inches. I made this longer shackle, and and the purpose of that was if you use the factory hole, I was never going to use the factory hole anyways on this one because the shackle will be straight up and down, and you want to get that nice angle that makes it ride a lot better. And then here I have the same 10-inch spring shocks, and they're it's just a horrible design on how they mounted it. So I'm not going to use this rear end. I have an 8.8 inch I'm going to install, so these are going to be coming out anyways, but they dramatically limit your droop. I could get, if I had the right springs, I could get another 5 inches of droop. I believe a total of 12 inches of droop out of this with a better shock, longer shocks in a better position. So that pretty much sums up, I'll give you a side view of how it looks. Pretty much sums up the mods I did. A clever guy buying all junkyard parts could lift a vehicle, a Cherokee like this, for under $300. Let me get back far enough. So you can see there that I've notched the sheet metal to accommodate the tires. I actually ran 31s on stock height for a while, and in the next video I'll go in the mods, but right there kind of shows you the stance. It has 3 to 3.5 inches of lift using junkyard parts and a little bit of fab skills. In the next video I'll go over the bumpers and the armor I've got done. Thank you guys for watching.